Living with my ruthless ex-husband, Chapter 21. They got on the table that was prepared for them. Gary noticed that there was an extra plate on the table. She doesn't want to ask because she knows that she doesn't have the right to question them on whoever they want to invite into their house. They were just seated when someone came. It was a beautiful woman in a red dress that hugged every curve in her body. She partnered it with a black stiletto. Her long wavy hair matched her perfectly shaped face. Gary almost raised an eyebrow when she saw how heavy her makeup is in the middle of the day. "Hello, everyone," she happily greeted them when she entered the dining hall. "Oh, Sandy, what brought you here?" Lucia stood up and greeted her. Sandy kissed her both cheeks before handing out a gift. "I heard Lucas had come back from London. I came here to welcome him back," she said, smiling widely. She shifted her gaze on the table, where we were all seated, and her smile clearly dropped upon seeing Gary sitting beside Lucas. It was a brief moment before he put her fake smile back, and went to Lucas. Gary was just raising her eyebrow while watching Sandy move her way around. Gary felt relief when she saw Lucas politely declined when Sandy was about to kiss him on the cheeks. Lucia felt the awkward silence, that's why she initiated attending Sandy. "Sandy, come join us for lunch." "Here, come and sit beside me," she said. Gary silently watched everyone as they continued eating their food. There's a deafening silence in the air. They were all at the huge dining table. Lucas was beside his father, Augustus Hargreaves, who was seated in the middle part of the table, while his beautiful wife, Lucia, who was sitting on the opposite side. "So, how's the wedding?" Lucas' mother breaks the silence. "It's fine, Mum. I wish you were both there, but it was so sudden, and I can't wait much longer. I wanted to marry Gary as soon as possible," he said, turning his face towards Gary before reaching for her and planted a soft kiss on top of it. "I wanted to be mad at you for making a drastic decision, but looking at your wife, I can say I can't blame you," Lucas' father said, and his rich laughter filled the air. Gary can't help but smile shyly. She's not used to this kind of gathering. She grew up alone even though she's with her aunt. She never felt like part of their family. They were not bad, but they weren't good either. "So, what are your plans?" Lucia asked Lucas. "I've gone for so long. I would probably be busy at the firm," he answered. Her gaze shifted to Gary, as if she's waiting for her answer. She's not sure what to say. Until now, everything seems too hasty. She's not sure what her plans are. Gary was about to open her mouth when Lucas interrupted. "Of course, she'll be staying here at home. I'm stable enough to provide for both of us. She doesn't need to do any work," Lucas proudly says. She gave him an awkward smile while Lucas is undeniably happy with the current setup. She doesn't have anything in mind right now, so what Lucas did was actually good, then that would be great. "Gary and I will have a lot of time to spend with each other." Lucia was smiling sweetly to Gary. Lucas' parents were nothing but kind and good people. They never let Gary feel like an outsider. They welcome her in the family with open arms and warm hugs. Gary feels the need to reciprocate their kindness with being an obedient daughter-in-law. She suddenly felt like she can't do anything to disappoint them or else they would turn their back on her and will urge Lucas to leave me. Everything was perfect. It was too perfect that she already felt an irrational fear that all of this will collapse in just a snap. "Are you okay, hon?" Lucas whispered in Gary's ear that it made her startled. She didn't realize that she was too drowned in her thoughts. She answered him with a nod and an awkward smile before letting out a deep sigh. She maintained her silence throughout the whole lunch. She keeps on listening to what they are talking about, but she can't understand any of it. It was all about cases, meetings, and people I didn't even know. She kept her head down and continued eating silently. Gary can't help but felt jealous looking at Sandy. If she's not in the picture, she would think that Sandy would be a perfect match for Lucas. They have the same likes and line of work. They would definitely fit for each other, unlike her, who has nothing but a vocational course certificate. She didn't mean to, but she can't help but compare herself. From the way she dresses to the way she talks, she's completely different from her. She found out that she just graduated from law school and was about to take the bar this year. She's a daughter of a well-known lawyer and has been a family friend of the Hargreaves for so long now. "Are you tired? We can go up to our room if you want," Lucas whispered to her again. "No, I'm fine. It might be important," she declined. They were now talking about the recent case that the firm is handling, and Sandy will be part of it as an apprentice. She will be with Lucas to learn more about the case. Though she doesn't have the license to represent anybody, she insisted that she want to be a part of it. She also said something about working at Lucas' firm after she took the bar. She can't help but feel little compared to her achievements. She suddenly felt jealous thinking that they would be spending a lot of time at work. Who knows what will happen during that time? "That's a nice idea, Sandy. At least you would learn a lot if you spend more time on real cases. I'm sure Lucas would help you in many aspects. Augustus said while laughing. Now that Lucas will be the one to handle the firm, I will have a lot of time for my wife, he said before looking dearly to Lucia. I love that, sweetheart. But would you please allow me to spend more time with my daughter-in-law? I wanted to know her more. Is it okay with you, Hija? She said, shifting her eyes to Gary, who silently eats her food beside Lucas. That's fine, Tita. She didn't finish her sentence when Lucia corrected her. Call me mommy. You're Lucas' wife now, she sweetly corrected her. Gary can't help but smile widely. She's relieved that somehow Lucas' parents are not what she's expecting. She was thinking of the worst since Lucas came from a wealthy family and she was nobody. That combination doesn't usually get along. Oh okay, Mom. She interrupted again when Sandy butt in. Mum, why don't you open my gift? Sandy said. Gary gritted her teeth upon hearing Sandy called Lucia Mum. It was as if she's doing that on purpose to piss her off. She was shamelessly squeezing herself in the picture. She looked at Lucas, then raised her eyebrows. Lucas felt Gary's glare. That's why she turned his face on her. Sorry, Sandy has been very close to our family. She gets used to calling my mother Mum, he explained. She wanted to ask more questions, but she doesn't want to cause a scene. She looked at Lucia and Sandy, who were busy opening the gift Sandy brought for Lucia. Lucia excitedly untied the ribbon and opened the box. It was a gold necklace with diamonds in its pendant. This is so nice, Sandy. You shouldn't have bothered yourself, Lucia said. It's fine, Mum. I saw it in the mall yesterday, and I think of you the moment I laid my eyes on that necklace, she said. I didn't have a second thought and immediately bought it for you. You don't have to, Sandy. But thank you. This is beautiful, she said. Sandy then shifted her eyes to Gary. She had this mocking look in her face. If Gary was standing, she would probably look at her from head to toe. So, what's your name again? She asked when she turned to Gary. Margaret. You can call me Gary, she answered, without any confidence in her body. She felt small in front of her. Sandy just raised her eyebrow at her. So, how many months is it in your tummy? She said before picking up her utensils and continuing eating. What? She confusedly asked. In your pregnancy. You're pregnant, right? That's the only logical reason that I could think of why Lucas married you, she said without looking at her. Sandy, the loud voice of Lucas echoed in the whole area. I'm not going to let you disrespect my wife inside my house. She's not pregnant and the only reason to marry her is because I love her. Lucas wiped his mouth with the table napkin before standing up. He grabbed Gary's hand before speaking. I think my wife, and I need to rest. Thank you for the wonderful lunch. Please excuse us, he said before looking at me. Let's go, love. Gary immediately stood up and bowed to everyone to say her respect. She silently followed Lucas up to his room. She was somehow thankful that Lucas decided to leave the dining hall. She already felt suffocated by the situation. The maids will bring our clothes here in a while, Lucas said when they finally went inside the bedroom. Are you okay? I'm sorry about Sandy. It's fine. Don't worry about it, she said when Lucas went to her and hugged her. I'll be busy starting tomorrow. I've been away for too long and I have a lot of work that needs to be done. I might have gone home very late. Are you going to be okay here? I'll be fine, Lucas. Don't worry about me. I already felt guilty for keeping you from your work. So don't worry about me, she said. Returning his tight hug, Mum will be staying here, for now, to guide you around the house. Will that be okay with you? Of course, it's fine. I wanted to know your mother better. It's my job as your wife, she said, smiling sweetly towards him. I love you. I'd like to spend every moment of my time with you, but I can't. I need to look after our firm, especially now that Dad has already retired and left everything to me, he said before burying his face on her neck. Stop worrying about me, Lucas. I'll be fine here. What hard can it get? She jokingly told him. He chuckled against her neck that sent shivers through her spine. She also felt a hard thing poking on her legs. Lucas. She shouted at him. What? He said, chuckling. Your thing is poking on my legs. And it's hard again. She explained innocently. That's what you do to me, love. I always want to claim you every goddamn time. Can I? He added. She can feel his smile against her neck. She can't help but smile knowing how insatiable her husband is. I didn't answer him. He lifted his head from my neck and looked at my face. You didn't answer me, he told me while pouting his lips. What? She asked while smiling. She likes to tease him. He looks so cute when he acts like this. Are you getting tired of me? He said while squinting his eyes and pouting his lips. Do you only like me for my body? She can't help but burst into a loud laugh watching him act like a child that was throwing a fit. His playful looks immediately went away when he heard what Gary said. Don't say like that, he said with a serious face. Don't say like what? She asked while frowning. Say something like that out of nowhere. You almost gave me a heart attack, he said. He even held his chest as if he was having a heart attack. She smiled upon hearing what he said. I still can't believe that I'm already married to the great Lucas Sebastian Hargreaves. Thank you for loving me, she said fondly. No, I should be the one thanking you for coming into my life. I love you, Gary, with everything I am. I'll cherish you for the rest of my life, he said before planting a soft kiss on her lips. Chapter 22. Gary, today is my first day here at Lucas' house. It's also his first day going back to work since he left for London with me. I woke up early. I wanted to prepare him some breakfast before going to work. I carefully removed his hand that was wrapped around my waist. I went to the bathroom to fix myself before going out of the room. If it was my normal house, I wouldn't bother taking a shower before going out, but it isn't. I need to look presentable to all the people around the house. After a quick shower, I changed into cotton pants and a shirt before going to the kitchen. There were few people in the kitchen when I got there. They all looked surprised when they saw me. Miss Gary, you're too early. Do you need anything? The middle-aged lady asked me. There were at least 4 people in the kitchen who were preparing a meal. I suddenly felt awkward since I don't really know my way in the kitchen, and I don't want to disturb them from their work. I wanted to prepare breakfast for Lucas. I answered. Do you have anything in mind? She asked me politely. By the way, I'm Mindy, she introduced herself. Nice to meet you, Mindy. I was thinking of making a French toast for Lucas. She politely guided me and helped me for everything that I needed. She assists me in any way she can. I somehow managed to exchange some stories with them, and I enjoyed my morning with them. It was almost 7 o'clock in the morning when I finished the French toast and the freshly squeezed juice that I made for Lucas. I was preparing everything when Lucas' mother came into the kitchen. Oh, I'm surprised to see you here. Hija, aren't you too early? She said upon seeing me. Sorry, where are my manners? Good morning, Gary. She smiled at me before giving me a big hug and peck on the cheeks. Good morning, Mum. I'm still not used to calling her Mum. Why are you up so early? You should rest a bit more. I'm well rested, Mum. I wanted to prepare some breakfast for Lucas. Is that so? How lovely. What did you make? She curiously asked. I made a French toast and fresh juice, I proudly told her. But my smile immediately faded when I saw her mouth twist a little. She bit her lower lip as if she's stopping herself from saying anything. How should I say this? She pursed her lips and let out a deep sigh. I'm glad that you made an effort to prepare breakfast for Lucas, but he doesn't like French toast. He hates the taste of it, and he dislikes orange juice in the morning. She almost looks like she's squirming in pain while she's saying those words to me. My shoulders slumped upon realizing that all my efforts go to waste because I didn't take the time to know what my husband likes to eat in the morning. I'll just give this to them. I slumped my shoulder and took a deep breath before cleaning up the tray that I prepared. I handed the toast to the maid. They all looked sympathetic since they all saw how I put all my hearts out in making that toast and orange juice. I'm sorry, Hija. Don't worry, next time I'll tell you everything that I know about Lucas. She smiled sweetly, trying to cheer me up. How are my 2 favorite women in the world? Lucas announced upon entering the kitchen. I smelled orange juice and French toast. God, I hate those. Who dares to make them in my house? He sounded annoyed, but just the mere smell of the food. I wanted the floor to open and swallowed me. I can't believe that I didn't even know what Lucas wants or hates. Let's go to the dining table, shall we? Her mother said, trying to sway the topic away from the French toast and the orange juice that I prepared. Lucas snaked his hand around my waist while leading me to the dining table. I remained quiet throughout breakfast. Lucas occasionally asked if I'm okay, but I just answered him with a timid smile and a nod. I can't tell him that I feel bad that he doesn't like the food that I prepared for him, but I can't force him to eat the food that he doesn't like. This has been the most agonizing breakfast I have ever experienced in my entire life. I was so thankful when it was finally over, but I'm sad that Lucas needs to go to work. I don't want to be alone here, but I can't force him to stay with me and skip work just because I don't want to be alone here. I waved him goodbye while looking at his car and slowly vanishing within my sight. I let out a deep sigh when I was finally left alone in the house. Gary, are you going to do something today? I heard Mum ask me upon entering the living room. I don't have any plans today, Mum, I answered. That's great. Come with me. Let's go shopping, and I'll introduce you to some of my friends. We're having some coffee later, she excitedly told me. I'm not really into shopping, but how can I say no to her? I don't have money for shopping, Mum, I shyly answered. I was scared of what she would think about me. She might think that I'm a gold digger and I'm after Lucas' money. Oh, silly. You don't have to worry about that. I'll take care of it. I'll just tell Lucas about it later. Excitement very imminent on her face. I'm glad that I have someone now to be with me when I go shopping. Those 2 are unreliable as a shopping companion, she said, referring to Lucas and his father. I chuckled upon hearing her slight rant about his son and his husband. I'm glad that she didn't think that I was just taking advantage of Lucas. I'll just change, Mum, I said, smiling at her. Go on, take your time. I'll ask the driver to prepare the car, she said while clapping both of her hands. I was shaking my head, and I was smiling to myself when I went up to my room to change. It was already 9:00 in the evening when we finally went home after the whole day of roaming around the mall. Mum bought a lot of clothes and things for me. Though I'm not really comfortable wearing those kinds of clothes, I don't think I can refuse Mom's offer. She'd been nothing but good to me, and I don't have the heart to tell her that I'm not comfortable wearing those clothes. She also mentioned that I should maintain a certain image as Lucas' wife. I need to be presentable or else it will reflect on Lucas. I let out a deep sigh when I finally got into our room. My arms are hurting from all the bags that I carried throughout the day. I dropped all the paper bags to the floor and slumped my body on the bed. I was so tired from all the shopping, I didn't get the chance to check my phone. I picked my phone from my pocket to check if Lucas called or texted me. He has one text asking how am I doing. Aside from that, I didn't receive any more text from him. I tried to call him but his phone was off. I looked at the clock, and it had already passed 9 in the evening. It was way beyond office hours. I texted him again before dialing up his number for the second time. But no luck, it was still turned off. I got into the shower and washed up. I'll try to call him again later. Maybe his phone died, and he didn't bring his charger. It took me almost an hour in the shower. I took my time since I'm not really used to owning a bathtub. I was so tired that I almost fell asleep in the bathtub. I dried myself using the towel before wrapping it around my body. I didn't get a chance to bring my clothes into the shower because I'm so eager to take a bath. I was drying my hair when I reached for my phone and tried to dial Lucas' number again. Unlike a while ago, his phone rang this time. It took 3 rings before he finally answered. I was about to open my mouth and greet him but I was stunned when a woman answered his phone. Hello, who's this? The woman asked. I have a hunch that it was Sandy. How dare she ask who I was when she definitely saw the name on Lucas' phone? I composed myself before answering. This is Lucas' wife. Can you please hand the phone to my husband? I emphasized the word husband so she would get a message. He's busy, can't you see? He even asked me to answer the phone for him, she said. I know that she's just trying to annoy me and she's succeeding. But I can't let this woman push me around, especially not around my husband. I have the right to demand his attention. Just tell my husband that it was me. I'm sure he would give me time for his wife. I told her, emphasizing on the word wife. Give the phone to my goddamn husband, I already lost it. I can't stand the thought that my husband is with this woman in the middle of the night doing God knows what. There was a brief silence. After a few moments, I heard Lucas' voice. Hi love, I'm sorry, I got stuck here at work. We got a big case that we're working on. I didn't have time to check on you. Are you okay? What's wrong? Lucas continuously asked. I wanted to get mad at him but for what reason? I can't be mad at him for working his ass off or for working this late with that bitch. I let out a deep sigh before finally speaking. I'm fine. I just miss you. Mum and I went shopping. We just got home. I called to check up on you. Are you going to spend the night there? I asked him, trying not to sound so clingy or needy. I'll probably go home after a couple more hours. I don't think I could get some sleep without my beautiful wife beside me. He fondly said. I can't help myself but smile upon hearing those words. I can't believe how he could make my heart flutter and calm by just his words. If not for that bitch Sandy, I would be completely fine with him spending the night at his work. Is Sandy going to be with you all night? Yes, she is, and so would the other 3 lawyers here, he added. I can sense that he was teasing me. He probably sensed that I was jealous of Sandy. Stop whatever it is that's playing inside that beautiful head of yours. You don't have to worry about a thing. I love you with all my heart. I can't even stand looking at other women aside from you, he said, which makes my heart flutter. Just don't tell my mum about it. Okay? I chuckled upon hearing him joke around about his mother. He clearly adores his mother. Just don't think too much, okay? I'm not saying anything, I denied. Yes, you don't, but I know you. You overthink things and worry too much. Sandy was nothing but a colleague and a family friend. You don't have to worry about her, he explained. I let out a deep sigh before speaking again. I'm sorry. I can't help it. She looks so perfect and... He didn't let me finish my sentence. There's no one that looks perfect for me other than you. You're all I need, Gary. My heart only belongs to you. I know he's trying to convince me that I have nothing to worry about, but I can't help it. I have this irrational fear that somehow this marriage is not going to work, that it will eventually fail at some point. I'm sorry. I'll try not to think about it too much, I said, assuring him. Go on. You should head back to work. Don't let me keep you from taking over the world, I said, trying to lighten up the mood. Okay, I love you. Don't wait for me, take some rest. I'll be home after 3 hours. I bid my goodbye to him before ending the call. I somehow felt relieved upon hearing Lucas' voice, but my irrational fear still lingers inside me. Chapter 23, Gary. The following days, weeks, and months are the same. I didn't notice that it was already been 2 years since we've been married. Lucas has been very busy with his work in the firm. We barely talk or even see each other. I would sleep without him and would wake up knowing that he had already left for work. We were just communicating through text or phone calls. At first, I didn't mind it, since I had been very busy with different gatherings and social events organized by his mother. But as the day pass, I'm feeling my identity is slowly slipping away. Whenever I look into the mirror, I don't recognize who I am looking at. I can't see any trace of the old Gary. I feel like I've become a puppet that was following the order of my puppeteer. I already forgot who I am. I've become a dress-up doll, but deep inside I'm nothing but a rag doll. This world is not for me, but I have to endure. It may not be my world, but Lucas, the man that I love dearly, belongs here. I can't pull him down just because I'm not happy. I'm so proud of watching him grow even more. I love to watch him take over the world with his brilliancy and intelligence. I was with Lucas' mother now, having a coffee in a cafe together with the wives of other lawyers who work at the firm. I was sipping my coffee when I saw a familiar figure coming to our table. I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't expect that the gift wrapping would take that long. Sandy greeted the table with a bunch of paper bags in her hand. I was surprised to see her here. I thought this is a wives' gathering. I don't see any reason why she's here. I used to ignore her presence, but she's really starting to get into my nerves. You shouldn't bother, Hija. By the way, what are you doing here? Mum asked her. I'm glad that it wasn't Mum who invited her to be here. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that I invited Sandy to join us, Mrs. Tantuco said. I hope you all don't mind, she wickedly said. All of them agreed, and confirmed aside from me. Mum shifted her gaze on me as if she's waiting for my confirmation. I gave her a small nod just to tell her that it's fine. Everyone was gasping as they opened their gifts one by one. The other wives clearly love her. They never show me this kind of response. Not even once. By the way, Sandy, aren't you needed in the firm, Mum? Asked her. I was thinking the same. Lucas had been very busy that he seldom texts or calls, and yet this woman is having coffee with us. We all took a day off. Lucas dropped me off here, she proudly said. My ear twitched upon hearing her last word. Did she say that Lucas dropped her off here? I immediately look at my phone hoping that he texted me or maybe missed his calls, but to my dismay, there was nothing. Did he tell you where is he going? I can't help but ask her. You didn't know. I can clearly hear the sarcasm in her voice, but I decided to ignore it. He said he would have a drink with one of his college friends, she said with a little smirk in her face. I wanted to rip that smirk out of her face. I wanted to grab her hair and mopped it on the floor. But I forced myself to calm down. It wouldn't do any good, especially in front of these women. I can see the worried look on Mom's face. Please excuse me for a moment, I said before walking out of the table. I went straight to the bathroom and tried to call Lucas, but I couldn't reach him. His phone is turned off. I tried to call it again, but it was the same. I get frustrated each time I try to dial his phone and couldn't reach him. Where the fuck are you, Lucas? I can't help but shout at my phone. I don't really understand why he didn't even bother to contact me now that he has a goddamn free time. He even prioritized having a drink with his college friend than being with me during his free time. I don't want to put it out on him, but I can't help it. He hasn't touched me for 6 months now. What if he is seeing someone other than me? Is it because I can't satisfy him in bed? I tried calling him one last time, but I still can't reach his phone. I slumped my shoulder and gave up. I was fixing my makeup when the last person I want to face right now went inside the bathroom. I didn't bother to look at her, but she's obviously making it hard for me. So, how's married life? If it was any other person who asked me that question, I would clearly think it was just a harmless question. But a question like that coming from Sandy clearly has other meanings. I tried to ignore her by not answering her question, but she deliberately tried to make a conversation. Lucas always mumbled about how stressful his life is right now. I'm just glad to be there for him whenever he's feeling down, she continued. I was currently putting up some lipstick, and I gripped it tightly the moment I heard her talking again. How dare she rub it in my face? And how dare Lucas to seek another woman's company while he has a wife waiting for him at home? Let me be clear to you. Whatever we do in our marriage life is none of your fucking business. If you're that interested in our married life, why don't you come live with us? I sarcastically told her. I'm so fed up of being a pushover. I will never let this woman stomp my pride. And if you really want to know, Lucas and I good. In fact, we have the most amazing and steamy sex every night. I lied. Lucas and I have never been intimate since we started living on the same roof. And he started working again. But I can't let her know that I can't let her win. Really? Lucas tells me anything, and that's not what he told me every day. He actually said that he's so fed up with your constant texting and calling while he's working, she said with a smug in her face. Before I knew it, my hand immediately landed on her face. She was stunned. So was I, but I didn't let that take over me. I need to make my point here. Stay away from my husband. You don't know me. I can kill you with my bare hands right here. I threatened her. I'm done being a good girl. Being obedient leads me to nothing. I need to step up and make a point. I'm the wife. I should be the one calling the shots, not this bitch. How dare you slap me? I'll make sure Lucas will know about this. I just raised my eyebrow at her, unbothered. I hit her one more time, you bitch. She screamed and tried to grab my face, but I immediately took a step back. She lost her balance and fell on the ground. As if on cue, Lucas' mother went inside the bathroom. My eyes widened when I saw the shock in her face. I know this doesn't look good in any way possible. I was just about to say something when Sandy immediately ran towards Lucas' mother and hugged her before crying her heart out. What's happening here? Lucas' mother asked, raising her voice. The other wives were already there and they all had the same look in their face. I was just asking about her and Lucas since Lucas told me that they're not okay, but she accused me of having an affair with Lucas. Sandy said in between her sobbing. The nerve of this bitch to put the blame on me. That's not true, I defended myself. Then how can you explain why she's on the floor, Gary? Lucas' mother asked, full of accusations. I can't finish my word. How can I explain it? No matter how you look at it, I'm the first one to hit her. I'm waiting for your explanation, Gary, Mum said. This is the first time that I saw her mad. She never raised her voice at me. This is the first time she'd been mad at me, and it's because of that bitch. I can't handle how they all looked at me. It was as if I committed a terrible crime, and I was already judged without proper trial. I can't take this heat. I need to get out of here. I immediately ran towards the door and left. I heard Mum calling my name, but I can't stand being with them right now. I needed space to breathe, to think. I quickly went out of the cafe and ran towards nothing. I have nowhere to go to. I took the cab. He was asking me where to, but I told him to just drive. I don't know where I will go, but I'm fine with anywhere. Anywhere but here. I found myself alone in this overlooking cafe in Antipolo, Rizal. It's almost dark when I arrived there. Mum keeps on calling my phone, and I decided not to answer, but instead, I turned off my phone so no one can contact me. I'll deal with them later. I need to think about this thoroughly before I go back and face them. I was thinking of ordering coffee, but I decided to go on a cocktail drink. I was sipping my cocktail when someone joined me at my table and announced. I frowned and glared at the man who abruptly interrupted my peaceful thoughts. Let me guess, you and Lucas fought, he said. I was dumbfounded when I realized who it was. It was Magnus, Lucas' friend who I met in London during our trip. You're back. My face immediately lightened up upon seeing him. What are you doing here? I asked him. The last thing I heard from him is that he's in New York. I had a date, and I just dumped her. He proudly told me. I raised my eyebrow at him, shaking my head while smiling. What are you doing here? He asked. I remained silent. I'm not really comfortable talking about my problems with Lucas, so, I'm right. You and Lucas fought, he said, trying to read my reaction. Lucas and I did not fight. We even barely talked nowadays. It's more complicated than that. Besides, I went here to forget about it and you deliberately tried to open it up. I told him, rolling my eyes. I'll give you a drink, he said before waving his hand to the waiter. I already have a drink, Magnus. Can't you see? I told him before raising my glass. That's a cocktail. That's not even considered an alcoholic drink. You need something stronger than that, he said, then proceeded to order a bottle of tequila. Besides, you need to have a lot of strength facing Lucas when you get home, he said with a wicked smile on his face. And why is that? I confusedly asked him. I bet you turned off your phone and you didn't tell them where you are. I'm also guessing that Lucas is fuming mad right now because he can't find you. And in my experience, that means war, he said with a playful smirk on his mouth. I've known Lucas for too long now, and from what I saw in London, he's crazy over you, he continued. Why do I find it hard to believe? I told him, dismissing the topic. I pour the bottle of tequila in the shot glass and drink it straight up. I can feel the heat of the liquor running down my stomach. I was almost squirming in pain when I tasted the bitterness of the alcohol. I looked at Magnus, and he's clearly enjoying watching me suffer. Did my boy Lucas has been ignoring his beautiful wife? What are you talking about? I tried to dismiss the idea. I'm not really sure if he knows something about what's going on with me and Lucas. I think we need to teach that man a lesson. Are you in? He said, wiggling his eyebrow. What are you planning to do? I confusedly asked him. Just leave it to me, my dear Gary. I think it's time for Lucas to man up and step up his game, he said with a wicked smile on his face. I do not really like this idea, but a part of me wants to know what will happen. Chapter 24. Lucas keeps walking back and forth. He's uneasy that until now he can't contact Gary's phone. He already called Hunter to track her down. There's still no ransom call, so he's sure that Gary wasn't kidnapped. but he had a lot of death threats this past few months and their threats included Gary. That's what he's working on lately. He needs to track these people who are planning something against him and his wife. He didn't bother to tell Gary about it since he didn't want her to feel scared. He did everything he could to protect Gary in any way possible. He already alerted the police if anything bad happened. He will never forgive those bastards if anything bad happened to Gary. Lucas didn't also forget the fact about the fight between her and Sandy. He already heard about what happened to Sandy, but he thinks Gary deserves the chance to defend herself. He knows Gary. She was never the violent type. If that happens, she may have her own reason. It was past midnight when Magnus and Gary went home. Gary was so drunk that Magnus had no other choice but to bring her home. Not that he would let her go home alone in that state. Lucas would probably kill him if he did. Gary didn't want to talk about her problem with Lucas at first, but the moment the alcohol hit her, she already started spilling the beans. Gary started to let her heart out and tell Magnus everything, from the suffocating world she lived in now and to Lucas' lack of time for her. She also told him about the jealousy she's feeling towards Sandy. The moment they step out of the car, the maids immediately attend to Gary. She was so drunk that she would pass out at any moment. The maids had to put both of her hands on their shoulders so they could get her inside the house. The moment Magnus handed Gary to the maids, Lucas quickly went to him and gave him a hard blow on the face. Magnus, given his state, immediately fell down to the ground. "What the fuck did you do to her?" he screamed at Magnus, who's already recovered from his punch. "I should be the one asking you that, Lucas. What did you do to her?" He seriously returned the question to Lucas. "When you left London, Gary used to be this bubbly girl and a little ball of energy, but seeing her now, she's completely lost." He spits the blood from his mouth. "Now, I'm going to ask you again, Lucas, what did you do to her?" he asked with a dark face. The air becomes heavy between the two. Lucas was stunned with his question, but his pride didn't let it show. "Gary is fine and what's happening with us is not your fucking business," he shouted at him, who remained unbothered. Lucas looks deadly, and he's like he's about to kill someone. "You're my friend and so is Gary. If you don't know how to take care of her, just let her go. She doesn't deserve this. I will not let her go just because you say so," Lucas said, and was about to hit Magnus again when Sandy came in. "Gary deserves more than this, Lucas, and you know that. Don't let her suffer like this. She's too precious to be taken for granted," he shouted at Lucas. "Lucas, are you okay?" Sandy interrupted. "We're fine, Sandy. Get inside," he shouted at her. "It seems that you're busy with other things," Magnus said, giving Sandy a meaningful look before looking back at Lucas. "You have to put your priorities straight," Magnus said before turning his back on him. He got in the cab that was waiting for him. Lucas was left dumbfounded, thinking about what Magnus said. He's his good friend and this is not what he's expecting for their meeting. He keeps on thinking about the fact that Gary and Magnus are together and Gary was so drunk. Gary never did this since their marriage, and he didn't know what's happening to his wife. "Lucas," Sandy said, catching his attention. "Come on, let's get inside," she said. The bruises on her face are still swollen. Lucas heard what happened from Sandy and his mother. He can't believe what he heard, and he wanted to hear Gary's side, but he can't get anything from her since she's very intoxicating. "You should go home now, Sandy. I'll ask the driver to drive you home," he coldly told her. "Can you please drive me home, please? I don't know what to tell Dad if he saw me like this," she said, pleading. "You know how protective he was and I don't know how to defend Gary from them," she said. "I don't want to cause any more trouble." She's right. Sandy is the daughter of a very prominent lawyer and a very powerful family. They wouldn't take it lightly. It might even cause a bigger misunderstanding if he didn't manage the situation. Gary was already in their room and she was attended by the maid. He thinks it wouldn't hurt if he took Sandy home. He will take care of their issues when he comes back. "I'll just get my keys. Wait for me here," he said before going inside the house. It was already 1 o'clock in the morning, and he can't let Sandy go home alone in this state. He took a deep breath before he picked up his keys and went outside. He was in a hurry that he forgot to bring his phone with him. He thought that he would be back in no time, so he didn't bother to go back and get his phone. Gary woke up with a throbbing pain in her head. She tried to open her eyes and looked at the clock to check what time it was. It was already 5 o'clock in the morning. The last thing she remembered is that she was drinking tequila with Magnus. She didn't remember what happened after that. She frowned upon realizing that she's already in their room. She tried to think about what happened and how she got home. A few moments later, when she realized about the incident that happened between Sandy and her, all the resentments, anger, and paranoia that bottled up inside me finally went out. She got up regardless of her headache. She frowned when she noticed that Lucas' side of the bed remained untouched. There's no trace that someone has used the bed. Lucas didn't sleep beside her. She was thinking that he'd probably mad at her for not answering his call and drinking all night, that he decided to sleep in another room. She was about to go out and check on Lucas when she heard a phone ringing. At first she thought it was her phone, but upon checking it isn't. She then followed the sound and found Lucas' phone on the table. Lucas' alarm was already setting off. She picked up his phone to turn off the alarm. She was about to put it back on the table when a text caught her eyes. She never tried to touch Lucas' phone or even tried to sneak on his messages, but this time it was different. Something is urging her to run through Lucas' phone. Fortunately, it doesn't have a password. That's why she opened his phone without a sweat. She gasped in shock when she read what's in the text message. It was Sandy saying thank you for spending the night. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. Her chest tightened with the thought that her husband spent the night with another girl. She can't believe Lucas did that to her. She did everything for him, even if she lost herself in the process, and this is what she'll get in return. As if on cue, Lucas went inside the room. He caught Gary meddling with the phone, and he suddenly felt offended by that. Maybe it was the lack of sleep. That's why he got easily irritated by the thought that Gary ran through his stuff. "Where have you been?" she asked him. "Why are you touching my phone?" he answered. "I'm asking you, where have you been?" she shouted at him. Lucas is twitched by her tone. It was as if she's accusing him of doing something behind her back. He let her pride get in the way. Even if he didn't do anything wrong, he didn't make a move of clearing everything with Gary. He felt offended that after all he did for her, she even managed to accuse him of something he would never do. "What are you trying to say?" He answered her question with another question. "Why aren't you answering me? Where have you been?" she keeps on shouting at him. She didn't stop until Lucas answered her question, but Lucas is being stubborn and let Gary get eaten by her jealousy. He walked past her and went to the closet. He tried to ignore Gary's nagging and change his clothes. He doesn't have time to sleep because he needs to go back to work today. "Where did you spend the night?" She continues to bombard him with too many questions, and it's starting to get into his nerves. "I should be the one asking you questions." "Gary," he said, turning the table around. "Where have you been, and why drinking with Magnus in the middle of the night?" He called her Gary, not love or honey, just plain Gary. That irritated her more. "Don't change the topic." "No, you don't get to change the topic. I'm asking you why you were drinking with another man in the middle of the night." He asked her again. "And what did you do to Sandy?" He said as if everything is her fault. "What did I do to her?" I repeated the question. "Yes. She has bruises all over her face, and she told me that you pushed her on the floor. Don't you know what trouble it would cause? And you believed her." She hissed at him. "The evidence is all over her face, Gary. What do you expect me to believe? I was expecting that you would at least listen to my side, that you would ask me about what happened before judging me. But I guess I was wrong," she said, turning her back on him. Lucas let out a loud sigh. That was his original plan, to listen to Gary's explanation, but it didn't turn out right. He let his emotion get in the way. "I don't know what's happening to you, Gary," he said as if he's already giving up in this situation. "How would you know? You didn't even bother to ask me or even check up on me," Gary said. "I'm not even sure if I still have a husband. Maybe you enjoyed Sandy's company more than mine. Are you accusing me of having an affair with Sandy?" "Aren't you?" she said. "You slept with Sandy, right?" she accused him. "What? I would never sleep with her." "Stop with this nonsense, Gary." He can't help but raise his voice. Gary was shocked when he suddenly raised his voice at her. It was the first time in the years of their marriage that Lucas ever raised his voice at her. "Why don't you explain the text? What does it mean?" "Thank you for spending the night," she said, mimicking the text that Sandy sent for Lucas. "I'm not a fool, Lucas. Tell me, did you sleep with her? For fucking sake." "Gary, I didn't sleep with anyone. You're being paranoid. That text didn't mean a thing. It was you who's putting malice in everything." Lucas already lost his last straw. He quickly finished changing clothes and gets his briefcase. He'll just take a shower in the office. He has his personal bathroom in his office. He often uses that whenever he needs to stay at his office to finish some work. "We're done here? Let's talk after you calm down." "Lucas, we're not done talking," Gary continuously shouts to Lucas. Lucas ignored her and left the room. He can't stand the situation. He has been very busy with his work, and this is the only time that he can get some proper rest, but Gary wouldn't stop nagging him. Gary was left in tears. She slumped herself on the bed and continued crying while thinking about the text that she read from Lucas' phone. It is still lingering in her mind. Why did Lucas spend the night with her? She let herself drown into tears. She didn't know why they ended up like this. This was supposed to be a happy marriage. It was supposed to be her happy ending. Chapter 25. Gary. "I waited for Lucas to come home, but he didn't. I keep on calling his phone, but he won't answer. I even tried to call his office, but he deliberately trying to avoid me." Amber Lee, his secretary, who came back from vacation, said that Lucas was busy with a case, but I didn't believe her. I'm absolutely sure that Lucas was avoiding me. Maybe he was busy with that bitch Sandy. Mum tried to knock on my door to check up on me because I haven't eaten anything since yesterday, but I'm not in the mood to play the good daughter-in-law for now. I need to talk to Lucas. We have to settle this problem. I barely slept a wink last night. I waited for him to talk to him, but he didn't go home. I decided to pay Lucas a visit. If he wouldn't go home, then I should be the one to go to him. He can't avoid me forever. I took a shower and changed my clothes. I look at myself in the mirror. There's a big black round mark under my eyes, and it was puffy due to my non-stop crying last night. I look horrible, but I don't care. I'm so fed up in fixing myself, just to please everybody. I went outside my room, and I saw Lucas' mother talking to the maids. "Good morning, Mum," I blandly greeted her out of respect. "Gary, would you like to have some breakfast with me?" she said, stuttering. I don't know what I should tell her, but the memory of what happened last time still lingers in my mind. I can't forget how she accused me of hurting Sandy, just because of what she saw in the bathroom. But I know that it's not enough for me to disrespect her. It was actually the first time that she raised her voice at me. I'm not really sure what's happening to me, but it seems like everything is falling apart right before my eyes. "Thanks, Mum, but I need to go," I politely answered. "Where are you going, if you don't mind?" "You want me to come with you?" I can sense the fear in her eyes. She might feel responsible for my well-being, or she's feeling guilty about what happened. "I'm fine, Mum. You don't have to worry about me. Do you mind if I borrow your car?" I know she's worried, but she decided to let me be and just nodded. "Please take care, Gary. Lucas will be worried if something bad happens to you." Worried my ass. He didn't even bother answering my call. "I'll get going, Mum." That's all I could answer her. She was about to say something, but I immediately turned my back on her. I can't deal with her right now. I need to talk to Lucas. I got in the car and drove to Lucas' firm. It took me 2 hours before I reached Lucas' firm due to traffic. Manila's traffic is the worst. The guard from the building knew me and they all bowed down to me as a sign of greetings. Usually, I greeted them with a wide smile, but not this time. I completely ignored them and walked directly towards the elevator. I saw in my peripheral view that they were shocked about my sudden coldness. I pressed the floor, where Lucas' office is located. There were a lot of people who greeted me, but I ignored all of them. Maybe it was my lack of sleep that caused me to be this grumpy. I know those people have nothing to do with my problem, but I can't help but throw a fit on them. When I arrived at the floor where Lucas' office is located, Amber Lee immediately stood up and welcomed me. She offered me a drink and invited me to her table like what I always did during my regular visit. But this time it's different. I didn't come here to have a chat with her. I'm here to talk to Lucas, who has deliberately avoided me since yesterday. I went straight to Lucas' office, but Amber Lee moved her body in front of me to stop me from entering his office. I squinted my eyes at her. She's acting suspiciously, which makes me more eager to see what's inside his office. "Amber Lee, get out of my way," I warned her. "Gary, attorney, Lucas is in a meeting. You can't barge in there," she said. She looks genuinely concerned. She had become my friend over time, but at this moment, I'm not sure where her loyalty lies. I abruptly pushed her out of my way. I pushed her so hard that she almost fell to the ground. For a brief moment, I felt sorry for her, but my emotions are taking over me. I ignore her and walk straight to open Lucas' office without bothering to knock. My blood started to boil when I saw Sandy beside Lucas leaning on his table. Lucas was sitting on his chair while he was looking at some paper. My mind started to play a trick on me. I started imagining that they just finished making out. The image of Sandy straddling Lucas in his swivel chair while claiming his lips started to play on my mind. I felt like all my blood went up to my head. I was fuming mad, and a ball of fury started exploding into my system. I can't think clearly now. All I could think is how this bitch is trying to seduce my husband. I immediately went up to her and grabbed her hair. Lucas was shocked by what he saw. I dragged Sandy to the floor and sat on top of her. I started hitting her in the face and everywhere I can. "Stop flirting with my husband, you fucking whore," I screamed on top of my lungs. I'm starting to feel good. I continued hitting her, as she continuously uses her arms to defend herself. I can feel Lucas behind me trying to lift me up from Sandy, but I immediately grabbed her so Lucas can't take me away from her. I don't care what happens next. I just want to release all my anger and frustration that was bottling up inside me throughout the years. "Help." Sandy continuously begged for help, but no one dares to touch me aside from Lucas. But Lucas can't do anything to stop me. I suddenly felt energized. I feel like I can throw a truck at any moment. "Gary, stop this please," Lucas begged. but I remained deaf to all their pleading. I need to teach this woman a lesson not to mess with a scorned wife. I continued pulling her hair and slapping her face until I saw some blood coming out of her nose. I was about to hit her one more time when I felt a strong hand grab my waist and throw me on the couch that was in the office. I hit my head on the couch as I fell on it. I was about to stand up again when I heard Lucas' raging voice, "Don't you dare make a move, Gary, or I swear to God I'll throw you to jail myself. Are you out of your mind?" He shouted at me. That's when I realized what I've done. I gasped the moment I got back to my senses. The horror in my face when I saw the bloody nose of Sandy and the bruises in her face and in her body. "Lucas." I tried to call him but he didn't even look at me. "I'll take you to the hospital," I heard Lucas say to Sandy. Lucas lifted Sandy, bridal style, before they went out of the office. They left me there while the people in the office were staring at me. Some of them looked sympathetic but most of them are looking at me like I was a lunatic. They might be right. Who was in her right mind would do that to someone? They were whispering while looking at me. Amber Lee was the only one who went up to me and asked me if I was okay. "Gary, what happened?" she asked, concerned about my state. "Where's Lucas? I need to talk to him. Now I'm really sounding like a lunatic. We need to tend to your wound, Gary." That's when I realized that I also had bruises and scratches all over my arms. "No, I need to go to Lucas," I shouted at her. She was stunned by my sudden outburst but she didn't seem to mind it. "You need to calm down, Gary, or it would be much worse than this." She just proceeded to get the first aid kit in the medicine cabinet. She tended my wounds while I kept on staring at blank space. Now that everything settles down, I now realize the weight of what I did. It basically assaults and Sandy can press a charge on me. That makes me more eager to talk to Lucas. I need to explain myself. "What explanation are you going to do, Gary? You attacked a person. Period." I was about to stand up and go to Lucas when Amber Lee pulled me back on my seat. "You're not going anywhere, Gary. You need to go home," she firmly said. No, I need to go to Lucas. I need to talk to Lucas." I was panicking already. I'm not sure what would be Lucas' take on this. What I did was clearly wrong and punishable by law. He wouldn't let me go to jail, is he? "No, Gary. You're going home and you'll wait for Sir Lucas in your house. I'm sure Sir Lucas would take care of everything," she said, trying to calm me down. I have no choice but to do what she says. Besides, she has a point. Going to the hospital won't do any good. It might make it worse. I decided to go home and wait for Lucas. It's almost midnight but Lucas hasn't come home yet. I locked myself in the bedroom all day because I'm sure that the news about what happened was already circulating around the house. I saw Lucas' mother rush to the hospital when she heard about what happened to Sandy. I didn't know how to face her after all of these. I keep on phasing around the room. I was unsettled throughout the day. I keep on calling Lucas but he's not answering my calls. At exactly midnight, I heard his car arrived. I ran towards the window to check if I was right. I saw him go down the car and heard him ask the maids about my whereabouts. I suddenly felt nervous facing Lucas. I know what I did was wrong and I don't have any valid reason for that. I let my jealousy get the best of me and this is the result of that. My heart is thumping so hard that it almost burst my eardrums. I was pressing my hands together while waiting for him to get inside the room. I can hear his loud footsteps, and it didn't take long before he opened the door and went inside the room. The room suddenly felt cold. His face is darker than his usual. My body started to engulf me with irrational fear. I know he wouldn't hurt me physically but after what I did, I'm not really sure now. He looked at me with too much disappointment and resentment. It was as if he's already regretting marrying me. He went to the bed and sat on the edge of it before rubbing both of his hands to his face. He let out a loud sigh before finally speaking. He's facing his back on me. I'm not really sure what he's asking. Is it about what happened a while ago or is it about what happened to me? Why do I suddenly become like this? Honestly, even I didn't know how to answer that. Sandy has a broken nose and rib. I already talked to her father not to press charges, he coldly said. They decided to pull out their investments in the firm, he added. I remained silent. I don't know what to tell him to make the situation better. Aren't you going to say something? He said, turning his face around so I could see him. I wanted to answer him but what would I tell him? That I was jealous when I saw them that close in his office. I'm asking you, Gary. I was startled when he suddenly raised his voice. I'm sorry. That's the only word that came out of my mouth. I'm sorry. That's all you could say. No explanations about what you did earlier. He keeps on raising his voice. I know I did something wrong, but what about him? It's your fault I completely lost it. I tried to put the blame on him. My fault, he scoffed. Tell me, Gary, how did it even become my fault? You didn't go home last night. You didn't even bother answering my calls. What do you want me to think? And when I go to your office to catch you and Sandy doing whatever it is that both of you are planning to do, you went there because you thought that I was cheating on you, he scoffed. And you attacked Sandy because you thought that we're having an affair. That summons everything. Yes, that's basically it. My God, Gary, how many times do I have to tell you that there's nothing going on between us? He shouted at me. Then what about the text? Why did you spend the night with her? Tell me. He stared at me for a moment. He was looking at me as if I was a stranger. Maybe, he's right. I'm already a stranger to him and even to myself. I don't recognize the woman that I've become. I was never a violent person. I used to be this little ball of energy, the light of the party, and the optimistic woman who always sees the beauty in everything. Now, I see nothing but hatred, doubt, and betrayal. He took a deep breath, rubbing his hands on his face again. He looks like he was about to decide something important. It was as if he was having trouble what to decide next. This is going nowhere, Gary, he said before taking another deep breath. We need to salvage what's left of us before we finally destroy the good thing within us. Nothing is sinking into my mind. I can't really understand where he is going with this. What are you saying, Lucas? I asked him to try to understand it better. I want a divorce, he said. I was left dumbfounded. I still can't find my voice to answer him. I don't know what went wrong in our marriage. Why? So you can be with your mistress, I sarcastically told him. That's the only reason I could think of why he's asking for divorce now. I don't have a mistress. Sandy is not my mistress, he shouted back at me. I'm so fed up with your continuous nagging and paranoia. I can't take this anymore. Let's have a divorce. I'll prepare the papers first thing in the morning. Tears started to roll down my cheeks. My voice cracked when I finally spoke. Is she that important to you? My God, Margaret. How many times do I have to tell you that nothing is going on between us? She's just a colleague. Stop being paranoid. I don't believe you. Now, you're telling me that nothing is going on between the two of you. I wasn't born yesterday, Lucas. Stop making a fool out of me. I walked toward him and started throwing punches at him, but he's much taller than me, and way bigger. He easily subdued my punches. He is now holding both of my hands. Stop this, Gary, he softly said. Stop making this hard for both of us. It's not working anymore. This constant fight, and you doubting me are eating up all the energy in my body. Let's give ourselves a rest, he said while slowly putting down my hand. I started begging him to stay, but he's persistent to break up with me. He walked out the door and I was left sulking in tears. The stream of stress continuously flows on my cheeks. Just like that, my whole world collapsed right before my eyes.